This is Celia Cano with Marine Technology TV, here today with Brian Connon of Saildrone to discuss recent innovations at the USV company. Brian, to start us off, can you please give us a brief introduction, a career background, and some insights into your role at Saildrone?
Hi, well, thanks for having me, Celia. So, again, my name is Brian Connon. I'm the Vice President of Ocean Mapping at Saildrone. Prior to Saildrone, I spent 28 and a half years in the U.S. Navy as an oceanographer and hydrographer. And when I left the Navy, I was at the University of Southern Mississippi for 2 years, running a hydrographic science research center, and did a project with Saildrone. And that led to an offer to join the company. And so, what I've done over the past 4.5 years that I've been here is to help establish and scale up our ocean mapping capability within the company.
Awesome. And so to learn a little bit more about Saildrone as a company, and to give our readers a size and an idea of size and scale of the company, can you provide kind of a by the numbers look at Saildrone's, choosing whatever metrics, fit best for you?
Sure. So, here at Saildrone, we build and operate one of the world's largest fleets of uncrewed surface vehicles. As of today, we've sailed more than 2 million nautical miles around the world and spent over 50,000 days at sea. So that's really over the last 10 years that we've done that. And we've been up in the high north in the Arctic all the way to the Southern Ocean. We circumnavigated Antarctica, and we've served customers from NOAA and NASA and the government to the U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, and similar, foreign civil and defense organizations around the world.
Fantastic. And are you able to provide numbers in terms of how many vehicles are on the water today and then how many are under construction or on order?
Right. I can give you a sense of that there. I could tell you how many we've built. We built 100 of our Explorer class, about 45 of our Voyager class, and six of the Surveyors. And I'll explain more about those later. About right now, we've got about 50 or so of our vehicles out there actively working, but that's really focused in kind of the Voyager and Surveyor fleet. And we've got nearly 100% utilization of those platforms. There are newer platforms have a lot more capability for the missions that we're asked to do today.
That's fantastic. So looking more at the markets that Saildrone works with, what are your key markets? And then can you provide insights onto how much each contributes to your bottom line?
Right. So, again, for the work that we're doing on the ocean, whether that be ocean survey or maritime security, we're primarily right now, we're kind of splitting those. But now the maritime ISR capabilities are going to the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard and some of our allies. And the commercial Bathy is supporting both defense as well as kind of blue economy mapping for some EEZs, as well as looking into the undersea cable market for telecommunications and offshore energy. We're seeing that the value to our customers, as they start to realize how much we can do, and more emphasis on maritime domain awareness. We feel the maritime security sector will probably end up being the biggest portion of our business in the next 3 to 5 years.
Awesome. And I think you kind of started to touch on this, but can you discuss what key drivers are influencing these markets, especially in today's world?
Right. We're just seeing, around the world everywhere, more need to provide maritime surveillance to counter drug trafficking, illegal fishing, anything basically nefarious on the water where you need to have eyes on those. Maritime security forces simply can't cover the sea area that they need to effectively monitor and protect their borders, marine protected areas, and any other vital restricted areas they have. So what we do at Saildrone is we provide those additional eyes on the ocean more economically than having to procure or build new ships and then having to operate and maintaining them. We don't require additional manpower, and so you're reducing both cost and risk by using USVs. Now, in the ocean survey market, there's a big emphasis on kind of understanding our oceans, what's underneath them. We've only mapped 26% of the oceans to modern standards, but there's a general lack of capacity from traditional survey ships to accomplish this in a reasonable time frame. So we're a industry partner of Seabed 2030, which is a big effort to try and map the world's oceans by 2030. Obviously, we're nearly to 2030 and at only 26%. But as we see more small island developing states trying to develop their blue economy and more people understanding that they need to understand what's under the water within their exclusive economic zone, this and whether they're putting in offshore energy or they want to run undersea cables, it just continues to increase the demand for ocean survey.
Fantastic. And you kind of mentioned a few minutes ago, the next 3 to 5 years. And so I wanted to dig a little bit more into your prime market, which is military, and what specifically this market might look like in the coming 3 to 5 years, and then what military leaders are asking for as they start to dive deeper into autonomous solutions.
Right. And it's, really from a military perspective, you run the whole gamut of what they're looking for. They're looking for, fast vehicles that can do interdiction, but they're also looking for persistent presence on the ocean, whether that's looking at, other surface vessels, or potentially having passive acoustics that allow them to look under the water as well. So I think what you'll see in the next 3 to 5 years is um, probably a market that kind of narrows in on specific types of USVs to do specific missions. Right now, the market's getting saturated with a lot of kind of close to shore, fast USVs. There aren't a lot of USVs that can go over the horizon and stay out for months at a time. Saildrone's a leader in that space. And I think what we're hearing, I know what we're hearing back from the military is that that persistent presence and the ability to use radar and AIS and cameras and passive acoustics to look above and below the ocean is really what they're driving towards. And then, on the other side of the equation, from away from our maritime security and ISR operations, what is the military going to do from a kinetic side? Are they going to have large USVs that have a kinetic strike capability on board? So I think, it's going to be really interesting and fun over the next 3 to 5 years because there is a lot of emphasis on this. And as we know, shipbuilding is very expensive and is in some ways kind of broken in that ships are, over budget and way behind schedule. And so they're going to be looking a lot more at the autonomous solutions and not just USVs, but AUVs and UASs as well to help fill those gaps in capability that they need to fight the future war.
Yeah, fantastic. And, I guess as we're talking about the USVs, let's dive a little bit more into those three classes. So you could share insights onto the three classes of USVs and also discuss what the key differentiators are between each of them.
Right. So I'll start with our Explorer, which is a 7 meter or 23 feet USV. And this is how we built the company. And it's primarily providing ocean research data. And they're solely reliant on solar power and wind propulsion. And so that was our starting point for us to get into the ocean data market and to really work out the physical platform and the physics of sailing. And then we quickly realized that, the missions we had potential for here at Saildrone really exceeded the capabilities they explore due to power or speed or size constraints or all three of those. And so uh, we have the Voyager USV, which is a 10 meter or 33 feet long USV. And that's the primary platform right now for maritime security and shallow water mapping. It's got a diesel generator to power the sensors, an electric thruster, which gives us more maneuverability and high speeds so we can relocate places. It's got high-powered radar. It's got AIS, a pan-tilt zoom FLIR camera. So that's what really gives us that large area coverage for detection of illegal fishing and contraband traffickers, and surveillance supporting protection of critical undersea infrastructure. So the Voyager can also be equipped with a shallow water multi-beam sonar and a sub-bottom profiler, so we can conduct geophysical surveys supporting safety of navigation, offshore energy, and subsea infrastructure construction and monitoring. And then we get up to the big one, the Surveyor, which is 20 meters long or 65 feet. And really, it is the largest and most capable USV out there. In addition to the maritime security capabilities, the Voyager, it can do all those things. It also has deep water survey capabilities, equivalent to the most modern survey ships. So the Surveyor can map from the near shore to full ocean depth to support a variety of markets. I mentioned before EEZ mapping, subsea cable routes, offshore energy exploration, and more. A a lot of ocean mapping is needed, and Surveyor is ready to do that.
Great. And looking kind of outside of the physical vehicle, I wanted to look at the command and control software. So is this developed in-house? Is it developed by an outside organization? And then again, what are some key tech differentiators?
Right. So all of our command and control software has been developed in-house. And so we've done a vertical integration, which really is that key differentiator. It allows us to tightly couple hardware, autonomy, and mission management all together. And so our platform has real-time fleet monitoring. We can do dynamic mission updates. We're doing secure data handling and built to allow us to scale globally. And since we own that full stack, we can rapidly adapt to new customer requirements. We can integrate emerging tech like machine learning and AI, and maintain a tight control over cybersecurity. So it's not about just building the drones. It's about managing oceans of data efficiently and securely.
Yeah, and you jumped just to my next question, which is awesome. So how does artificial intelligence play into your development plans for the sail drone fleet of the future?
Right. So we've already developed the largest image data set of the ocean, and we used it to build a proprietary machine learning algorithm to detect and classify activity at sea. So we're fusing multiple sensor streams into actionable insights in near real time. And so, we can take a picture on the sea, we can classify it as a boat or an iceberg or a whale spout, and classify those things. So we spent a lot of time, a lot of resources, having humans train that system, and that's been really something that sets us apart as well. And then we recently partnered with Palantir, and so they have a very sophisticated manufacturing and AI tools, that will really get into our production inside the company and help us streamline that manufacturing, and get efficiencies and allow us to, get that data back out to the customer that much faster. So we're really looking forward to see what Palantir can bring to us here at Saildrone.
That's great. And last few questions. So I wanted to look at if you're able to share specifics on one or more case studies which show how the USVs have been used to effectively help a particular customer meet their needs.
Right. I think a one that we've recently talked about, and I think is really kind of showing a new community for us that a lot of people don't have a lot of visibility on, is that subsea cable market. So we were approached last year by Meta. They were interested in maybe trying to disrupt the subsea cable survey market a little bit, and they asked, could our surveyor actually map the deep water portions of these undersea cable routes? And so they funded a demo with us, and we presented a paper on that last week at a Suboptic conference in Lisbon, really showing that the surveyor can indeed fill that role, despite not having people on board, despite being a sailing platform. What we showed was we can follow the route, we can collect the data to the standards that they need in order to determine if the route is safe to lay a cable. We showed that we can quickly alter that route if we do come across a seamount or a canyon or some reason why we can't continue on the planned route, and then we have to go off on a branch and go around, and deliver that data back to the customer. And so really appreciate Meta doing that. And part of that is there is a lack of capacity of those ships that can do that role. Using USVs can help lower costs, but Meta was also very interested in the fact that we avoid 97% of the carbon of a standard survey ship. So, this is a very cost-effective and environmentally safe way to do this really important job, because the subsea cable market is really taking off. A lot of cables going in, and a lot of them being sponsored by big customers like Meta.
Awesome. Thank you. And just last question is what's next? So how is Saildrone investing today to ensure it's tomorrow?
Right. Well, this spring we announced Saildrone Denmark, which will be a European entity based in Copenhagen. And this strategic expansion reflects, our commitment to supporting European allies and enhancing their maritime situational awareness through advanced autonomous technologies. So a lot of focus here in the Baltic Sea about critical undersea infrastructure. And so we feel that is how we can have a presence in Europe, but also demonstrate the capability to protect that infrastructure.